Okay, in this video, we're going to talk about card grading, and hopefully I'm going to help you learn more about card grading from a high level, kind of a generic level. I don't want to get into too much nitty-gritty detail in this video. I will come back, I think, and make some more in-depth videos about certain nuances within card grading, but this one I'm going to keep fairly high level. And first, we need to start with a definition. What is card grading? Well, card grading is an independent evaluation of the condition of a card. And this can apply to baseball cards, football cards, hockey, basketball, Pokemon, whatever. The principles are the same across the spectrum, but I collect baseball cards. That's what I know and love. So I'm going to look at the perspective of baseball cards. But again, it applies to any type of card. And it's an independent evaluation of the condition of the card. So what is independent? Independent just means it's a disinterested third party. The person doing the grading does not own the card. They are not going to buy the card or sell the card. At least that's how it should be. They don't really care who owns the card or anything about the card itself. They're just looking at the condition and giving a grade. And typically that grade is going to be on a scale between 1 and 10, with 1 being the card is in very poor condition and 10 being the card is in perfect condition, what is called gem mint. So 1 to 10, some of the grading companies will grade half grades. So if the card is let's say somewhere between a 7 and an 8, they will give the card a 7.5. There are some companies that even grade on a scale of 1 to 100, but the scale is roughly equivalent to the 10-point scale. So the grade of an 80 on a scale of 1 to 100 would equal an 8. But as I said, it should be an independent evaluation, so they don't really care one way or another who owns the card. They're just getting paid to give you their professional evaluation of the condition. So what are they looking at with the condition of the card? And notice I said condition. I didn't say the worth or value of the card. The grading companies aren't really telling you what a card is worth. They're telling you what condition the card is in. And obviously the condition of the card will play into how much a card is worth. A card that's in perfect condition will generally be worth more than a card that is in poor condition if it's the same card. But again, it's the condition of the card, and what they're looking at is 4 key areas. So let's look at those areas. So I brought along this Kevin Alcantara card. I think I'm saying that right. I'm not really familiar with him. I was like, I know I have a giant card somewhere in the house. Let me go find it. So these are the cards that come in the Topps Super Box, and they always come kind of dinged up. So I thought it would be a good one to use for this since we're talking about card grading. But the card grading company is going to look at the card and make an evaluation of the condition based on 4 key areas. The first of those 4 key areas is the surface of the card. They're going to look for any scratches or dings or divots or dents or printing errors in the surface of the card, both front and back. And then based on that, they'll come up with an evaluation of the surface of the card. That's the first area, the surface. The second area is a huge one. It's the corners. And with baseball cards or any cards in general, because the corners are a 90-degree angle here on this rectangle, they're very prone to damage. And anyone who collects baseball cards knows you key in on the corners, because if the corner taps, and I would never do this with a real card that I care about, or if you're handling the card, holding it by the corners are going to get frayed. They will get rounded. They'll have damage. Sometimes they'll get bent completely. And that's one thing that the grading card company is going to look at very closely, is the corners of the card and how good do those corners look. That's the second area. The third area that they're looking at is the edge of the card. And that's very similar to the corners. They're looking for any dings or creases or divots or bends or chipping or any type of damage. I've got a picture here that I'll bring up of Cecil Fielder rookie card, and these cards are any cards that have a dark border. The edge is key because the dark border will show whitening around the edge if there's any type of damage to the card. If you've got a card that has white edges, it can hide corner damage a little bit better. But one way you can really tell if there is damage is you can get a jeweler's loupe like this and zoom in on the, on the edges and on the corners to see if you see any damage to the card. That's the third area, is the edges. The fourth area that the grading card companies are looking at is probably my favorite to evaluate myself because it deals with numbers, and I'm a numbers guy, I love numbers, and that is the centering of the card, and it's based on percentages. Is it 50-50 centering, meaning is the card perfectly balanced on the left side, the right side, the top, and the bottom, meaning is the border the same size all the way around. And I noticed on this card after I grabbed it that the back border is horrible. And I'll bring up a close-up of this card, but one way you can check on the centering is to get a ruler like this, and especially if it's transparent like this one is and has millimeter markings, I can just hold this up. If I was doing this to a real baseball card, I would not hold it like this. I would have it down on a table on a protected surface, and I would be very careful, but this card I don't really care about. So measuring the left border, it comes out to 13 millimeters on the left side, and measuring the right border, it's only 5 millimeters. So you can tell it's way far off, 13 millimeters on this side and only 5 millimeters on that side. Which, if I grab my calculator and do 13 divided by 18, because 18 is the total border amount, and 13 was the highest, the widest border, that's 72%. That means 72% of the border is on this side, and 28% of the border is on this side. So it's a 72-28, which is bad. That's not very good. Now on the back, it's not as huge a deal. If it was on the front of the card, 72-28 would be really, really bad. But that's the fourth area that the grading card company is looking at, is the border of the card. So now that we've talked about the definition of card grading and we've talked about the what the grading companies are looking at, we can get into why does grading even exist? Because it's not free. It costs somewhere around $20 to $25 to get a card graded. So why would you pay someone that much money to just give you their opinion on the baseball card? And the answer to that question is really a two-word answer, and it is the internet. The reason card grading companies exist as they do today is because of the internet. Prior to the internet, when people wanted to buy and sell a baseball card, they would do it in person. They would be at a baseball card shop, or they would be at a card show, or they might be at someone's house. If they were meeting someone to look at their baseball card collection, they could hold the cards in their hand. They could look and they could say, you know what, I think this is a counterfeit card. This isn't real. Or they could look at it and say, well, I can see a crease right here and this corner's damaged right there. And so even though you're saying this is in perfect condition, I'm holding this card in my hand and I can tell it's not in perfect condition. And so you're asking, $100 for this card. I'm only willing to give you $50 for this card. Or maybe even, I think this is counterfeit. I'm not giving you anything for that. I don't want to buy that card. But when the internet came around, people started buying and selling everything online, including baseball cards. And the buyers needed to have some kind of assurance that the card was authentic, that it was real. They also needed some kind of assurance that if the seller said it was mint condition, that the card actually was mint condition. And it wasn't just, a bait and switch where the seller posted one picture of a card and the person bought it and it was a completely different picture. So the grading card companies really, I mean, they existed before the internet, don't get me wrong. PSA, I believe, started in the late 1980s, but it really did not catch on. Card grading did not catch on until the internet caught on, and everyone started buying and selling cards online, and they needed that confidence that what they were paying for was actually what they were getting. So that's the answer to the question, why does card grading exist? It is because of the internet. So who are these card grading companies? Well, PSA, that's the biggest one. I mentioned that one already. PSA is the biggest card grading company. And these are cards that I've picked up over the years that I've purchased. Here's a couple PSAs. SGC is actually owned by PSA now. That's another big one. SGC. This one is MCG. This is the only MCG card that I own. I'm not really familiar with that company, but this is a 1978 Topps Nolan Ryan, and it's in really great condition. So I bought that one. CSG, here's a Jack Morris rookie card, 1978 Topps in a CSG slab. Beckett, I don't have any Beckett slabs here, but Beckett is another big card grading company. So those are the grading companies. And you'll notice the scale that they use. This one is a 6. The scale that they use is a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being the card is in absolutely horrible condition, and 10 being the card is in absolutely perfect condition. There's nothing wrong with it. Now, one thing to keep in mind with card grading is that not every card needs to be graded. The grading companies would love you to grade every single card because then they could make tons and tons of money. But the truth of the matter is not every card needs to be graded or deserves to be graded. There would really be a couple key reasons to grade a card. The first one is if the card has some sort of sentimental value to you and you would like to preserve that card. And this card falls into that kind of category for me. That's a 1978 Lou Whitaker rookie card that I got graded. This card was given to me when I was a kid as a gift from my dad. If you've seen some of my other videos, you might know Lou Whitaker is my favorite player. I grew up a Detroit Tigers fan. I'm still a Detroit Tigers fan. And in the 80s and 90s, Lou Whitaker was always my favorite player. Sweet Lou Whitaker. And by the way, he should be in the Hall of Fame. That's a little side note. 100% Lou Whitaker should be in the Hall of Fame. He deserves to be. That's a topic for a different video. Anyway, my dad gave me this rookie card when I was a kid. So I've kept it all these years, and I got it graded a little while ago. So this card has sentimental value to me. I would never sell this card just because it was a gift to me from someone that is very dear to me. So that's the reason I got this card graded. Now, other cards you might get graded just because you want to put them on display or you like the way they look inside the slab. You know, you're gonna put the card up on your wall or whatever. You want to preserve the card and make sure it doesn't get any more damage. That could be another reason you get a card graded. But really the main reason that everyone talks about is because it captures the value, the true value of the card, or you might want to say it adds value to the card. I would make the argument that the card is already valuable. If it's a gem mint 10 card, even if it's not graded, it should be worth close to a gem mint card, but you'd have to hold the card in your hand. So again, getting back to the point of you don't really know what you're getting unless you can really truly examine that card. That's the main reason people would get a card graded, I think, is to add the value to the card. If you've got a card that is a gem mint card in high demand, send that card in to get graded. It will encapsulate the value of that card and make it very easy to convince other people of the value of that card, because an independent company like PSA has said this is a 10 card. So anytime you try to sell the card, everyone will know this is a gem mint card, and the value that's associated with that is captured in the grading process. Now, any video on card grading should touch on some of the downsides of card grading. And there are some downsides. We've talked about the cost. It can cost $20, $25 per card to get the cards graded, which can be expensive. It can take a long time for the cards to come back from the grading company, there's always the chance that the cards could be lost or damaged during shipping. And then the big thing for me is that when you're talking about card grading, you're really talking about a human being's opinion of the condition of the card. Now, there is a card grading company out there called Tag. I haven't used them. I don't own any cards from Tag, but it's the concept is very interesting to me because they grade with computers. It's all computer grading. And I'm sure I hope that there's some human involvement as well, just to make sure that the computer's not completely messing up the grade. But I think that really is the future of card grading, is either computer assisted card grading or almost fully computer card grading with human beings kind of doing some quality control at the end. Because that really would take the guesswork out of it. You could have 5 different human graders looking at the same card and they could give it 5 completely different grades. Now, hopefully those grades are at least close to each other. You know, one might say, oh, this is a 9, and another might say, no, this is 8.5. Another might say, no, this is just an 8. Maybe another would say this is a 7.5. But I have seen videos and I've seen instances even in some of my own cards where the card got a grade that's just completely wacky, and I don't really understand how it got that grade. So there is that human element, and you have to remember when you're talking about card grading, you're really just talking about the opinion of a human being at this point. And hopefully most of the time that opinion is correct and it's accurate, because these graders are grading thousands and thousands of cards. So hopefully they can get it right. But at the end of the day, it's really just their opinion, and sometimes they do get it wrong. So that's one thing to keep in mind with card grading. Now, finally, I'll end the video with this. When we talk about card grading, I'm a numbers guy. I like the numbers. I like to play that numbers game. Like, oh, what if this card gets a PSA 8? How much would it be worth versus if it's a PSA 7? But at the end of the day, what I really want to convey is that baseball card collecting, or any type of card collecting, really should be about having a fun hobby. And that really is at its core. It should be fun. It shouldn't just be about what grades you can get or how much the card is worth or how much money you're spending. It really should just be a fun hobby. And that's what baseball card collecting really started out as, is a hobby for kids. And when you think about baseball or any of the other sports, it really is a kid's game. And so we need to be able to hold on to that truth when we're talking about baseball cards. And yeah, it's fun. I like to look at the grades. I like to talk about the value of the cards. But we need to keep in mind the core focus is that it's a fun hobby, and we need to keep it fun. And one of the best things I like about card collecting is that I can do it with my kids. I've got one son who particularly likes baseball card collecting. He's the one who got me back into collecting cards, because I'd collected as a kid and then I stopped collecting for a long time. And then about a year ago, he started collecting some cards, which got me back into the hobby. And it's a great way for us to spend time together and just interact. And I can show him the cards from when I was a kid, and he can get excited about things. So if you've got kids or grandkids, if you've got nieces or nephews, and you like collecting, try to bring them into the hobby too. Share your cards with them. Give them some of your cards. Buy cards for them for their birthday or for Christmas or whatever. Just surprise them with a gift. If they have a favorite player that you know about, find that player's rookie card. Give them that rookie card, just like my dad did with this Lou Whitaker rookie card. So bring that joy into the hobby as much as you can. Don't just make it about the numbers. I like the numbers. The numbers are fun. The money's fun. But try to keep the hobby fun. That's the way I'd like to end this video. I really appreciate you watching. I enjoy making these and sharing these ideas, and I hope you've learned about card grading a little bit more today, and that you'll check out some of my other videos. But thank you so much for watching, and God bless.